Way back when I was a kid, we used to have this neighbor who had a son with mental health issues. I believe the right word for it is intellectually disabled. I say that because I don't want to offend anyone using the wrong term. But yeah, the kid's name was Mason. He lived next door to us and he was around my age. So at the time, they would have made him 11 years old. He didn't go to school, and not even the school for the intellectually disabled. The kid didn't speak, didn't react much to people, and basically didn't have any social skills whatsoever. I remember my parents used to say hi to Mason when they would go out for walks at the park. They would smile and sometimes say a few words, but he would never respond. My parents knew that Mason wouldn't respond, but I think they tried all the same to not offend his mom. She was often out there with Mason, but at times she did leave him alone out in the yard with the front gate closed. They had their house surrounded with wire mesh fences, and it was probably installed for Mason's protection. You see, we don't have fences in our town. It was an upper middle class neighborhood, very safe and clean, so naturally none of us were really concerned for our safety. So essentially the house and the yard was the entire domain for Mason. One day I was coming home from school. The school bus dropped me off at the corner. Grandma was waiting there to pick me up, and I was walking home with her. I was talking to Grandma and wasn't paying much attention to anything else. But then for a moment there, I saw Mason smiling while playing with the grass. Like I mentioned before, Mason never shows any type of emotion. That was practically the first time I had seen him move his facial muscles. This was a big deal. I ran toward him, stood right in front of the fence, and said, "Hi Mason, I just saw you smile. What's so funny about the grass?" Nothing. He didn't acknowledge me and went back to mimicking a statue again. Grandma told me not to bother him, and I told her that I saw him smile. She said I was mistaken and that Mason didn't have the capacity to express his feelings. She then dragged me home, and that was the end of it. Or at least that's what I thought. But it was really just the beginning of some of the most creepy things to come. It began like this. I was doing homework in my room one day. My room is on the second floor of the house, and it has a window that overlooks Mason's front yard and the face of his house. My house is located at the far end of a cul-de-sac, and so the houses are lined up at about 30-degree angle next to each other. That and the fact that my house is about twice the size, 2 stories high versus Mason's single-story property, we have a lot better view of them than they do of us. So anyhow, I was on the desk for like an hour, and I wanted to stretch a little. I got up and walked up to the window because I really wanted to go outside and play. Right away, I felt something weird, that ominous feeling that something bad is about to happen. I looked down to the ground level and there was Mason. Him being there is perfectly normal, but what made it strange was that he was looking up. He was looking straight at me. This never happened before, at least not to my knowledge. I was really creeped out because I had recently seen him smile, and it felt as though that wasn't something he wanted me to know. The fact that he could feel. There was a brief stare down until his mom walked out of the house to get him. As soon as Mason heard his mom open the door, he put his head down and went back to acting like a statue again. I never saw him move so fast. His motions were always slow and random. If he was walking, he walked because his mom was leading him to somewhere. If he lifted his head up, he did so because his mom would physically make him do so. This was not the Mason everyone knew. There was the Mason, the statue, a kid everyone felt bad for, but that wasn't the real him. The smile that I had seen while walking with Grandma and the stare that I got from my room, that was the real Mason. This continued for several years. I don't know why, but Mason wanted to show me things he would otherwise keep hidden from others. He would smile at times, stick out his tongue, pretend to cry, protrude his lower lip, and all kinds of other things. Then, just 2 weeks before my 15th birthday, he passed away. The word was that he had drowned in their backyard pool, but I didn't buy that. Mason wasn't some vegetable everyone thought he was. He was aware of his surroundings. He felt things and understood a lot more than he had led others to believe. I remind you again, he was my age. You don't drown in a backyard pool at 15 years old. It does happen, but the odds of it is probably lower than getting hit by a lightning. As a kid, when Mason began to show his true self, I was creeped out, scared, and I honestly thought that he was insane. But as I look back at the event as an adult, I begin to wonder if perhaps it was a cry for help. Why would a child purposely pretend to be a vegetable? If he had some evil intentions, then why all the harmless show of emotions to me? He never flipped a finger at me, never looked angry, and never once did anything bad to me. It was always something playful and innocent that he would momentarily show to me. So then, if he wasn't the evil one, the crazy that I believed he was, then I could think of only 2 others who must have made him live that way. His parents. They got over his death so very quickly. From upstairs in my bedroom window, I saw them crack jokes and laugh their asses off just 1 week after Mason had passed away. Is that possible? Is that something that people do after losing their only child? I still remember like yesterday when my grandma passed away of old age, the key word being of old age, and not by accident. My house was quieter than a library for over a month. It wasn't that we were being respectful of our grandma or acting that way because mom was so devastated. No, we were that way because all of us took the loss so hard. Things began to get better after the first month, but it took nearly a year before we began to live the way we used to before grandma's passing. That's how long it took for us to mourn our grandma's passing. So how could the parents of a child who died in a drowning accident be so happy and callous just 1 week after his death? But you know what the worst part is? My parents still live next door to them. I go visit my parents all the time because I only live a few minutes drive away from them. Sometimes I see Mason's parents doing yard work and they wave at me when I pull into my parents' driveway. I wave back at them, but I get chills down my spine just by looking at them. Is it imprudent of me to assume something so evil about these people? I really want to know what your viewers would make of this story. Am I wrong about Mason being a normal child forced to live or at least pretend to be intellectually disabled? I still can't forget the way Mason used to smile at me. The same smile that used to scare me so much now makes me so sad. I have children of my own today, and I get reminded of Mason every time I look at my sons. It's a nightmare that won't go away, and I really want to know if I'm overreacting to what really was an accident. Thank you for reading my story. Please publish it. Goodbye. What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? My routine, as far as I can remember since owning a smartphone, has always been to check my phone for messages and missed calls from the previous night. I can't do anything before I know what has gone down in my phone while I was asleep, and so that's just what I do religiously every morning. It was always the same, of course, a missed call or two, a few messages and emails, nothing new, nothing exciting, which, come to think of it, the repetitive nature truly makes me question why I still have the same habit. But anyhow, one chilly morning in December of 2012, I had woken up to something different, something annoying. I woke up and checked my phone only to find a photo had been taken. A photo of nothing basically, because I go to sleep with all the lights off, the curtains shut, and therefore my room is pitch dark when I'm in dreamland. I figured I must have rolled on top of my phone and somehow activated the camera, or perhaps it was a glitch, whatever. The next morning the same thing happens. Delete, go about my day, no big deal. When I came home in the evening on the same day, I thought it'd be a good idea to place my phone on the bedside table before going to bed. I watch a ton of YouTube before sleeping and normally fall asleep with your videos playing in the background. I lost count of the times I dropped the phone on my face or my forehead nodding off. Anyway, the point is, I don't get much sleep mainly because of YouTube, and therefore it made sense to physically separate myself from the phone. Build better habits, you know? So I go to sleep, and although it's really boring sleeping without something playing in the background, I eventually fall asleep, probably snoring like a freight train. I wake up the next morning, and surely enough, the first thing I do is check my phone. The screen turns on, and the freaking picture again. Dark and nothing, of course, since the rear camera was face down, and even if the front camera functioned because of a glitch, the room is pitch dark at night when I go to bed. At this point, I'm thinking, I can't freaking wait for an update to fix this crap. Delete, go to work, and come back home. I did a Google search that night and noticed that other iPhone users were having similar problems. After much research, I did a hard reset to return the phone to a factory default state and went to bed hoping to find a problem-free phone the next morning. But unfortunately, I woke up to another photo, and this time I was a little spooked. I wasn't spooked because it took another photo after the hard reset, but it was the photo itself that spooked me out. This time it wasn't entirely black. There was a faint glow at the top right corner of the photo. What makes that strange is the fact that I've got a framed painting right above the headboard of my bed. When it's pitch dark in my room, a tiny bit of light gets leaked from the side of the curtain covering the window, and the light bounces off the glass of the frame. So aside from the edge of the curtain, the glass on the frame is the brightest part of the room at night. The thing is, you can't take a photo of that frame unless the phone is held upright. The phone, however, was placed horizontally with the main camera facing the bedside table. So how in the hell was the photo taken? That day, I asked my brother if he was playing a prank on me, and he swore he wasn't. I believed him too because he's a lazy bum that could never get up in the middle of the night to do something like that. I was too scared to continue using that phone, so I didn't even wait to sell the phone and instead threw it in the dumpster of a local warehouse. I also moved all of my stuff to another empty room because there was no way I was sleeping in my old room. My new phone was fine. I didn't have to wake up to those creepy photos anymore. I don't know if it was a ghost, the phone, or the room that was responsible for those photos, but I'm just glad things have gone back to the way they were. Maybe I'm just being a scary cat and I'm overreacting to a glitch of sort, but trust me, if you were in my shoes, you would have been scared the shit out of your mind as well. As far back as I can remember, I was always a heavy sleeper. When I was in school, it was always a struggle for mom to wake me up. Also, I probably wouldn't have made it through college if not for my roommates at the time, who thankfully woke me up every morning. Once I fall asleep, you can play the music, jump on the bed, turn the lights on and off, and you still couldn't wake me up. Unfortunately, that's still me 5 years after graduating college, and that's why I'm a proud owner of 5 very loud alarm clocks. Now that you know this important tidbit about me, I will tell you why I'm writing this story to you. 10 months ago, the lease for my old apartment was coming to an end. My roommate at the time was going to rent a new place with her boyfriend, and since that left me without a roommate, it made the search for a new place a lot tougher. I couldn't rent a place on my own because it was too expensive. I could afford it, but then my monthly savings would go down dramatically, and that wasn't ideal. In the end, Sarah, an old friend from college, told me she had an extra room she could rent out if I were interested, and I took the offer. She got the house as an inheritance from her grandma when she passed away, and was now renting out all available rooms. There were 5 of us living under the same roof. I knew only one other girl aside from Sarah, but I felt comfortable moving in because Sarah knew all of them personally. There was a total of 4 bedrooms in the house, 1 on the lower level and 3 upstairs. The 5th girl used the study as her room, but paid less money since it was tiny. I was given the far left room upstairs, and I wasn't too happy about that because that room was right above the first floor bedroom. The floors in regular houses have far inferior sound insulation than the average apartment, so that means I have to be mindful of every move I make late at night. But it's not my house, not my rules, and so I didn't make an issue out of it. The first night, I went to bed without setting up the alarm because Sarah told me that she was going to wake me up. The rooms were all in close proximity, so 5 alarm clocks going off all at once was obviously going to get on someone's nerve. In any event, I went to bed that night. Sarah woke me up in the morning, and I arrived at work on time. When I came home after work, Kate, the girl who rents the room right below mine, told me that she had something to tell me. She asked me why I slept so late and why I made so much noise on the floor. According to her, I was knocking on the floor or something, which is ridiculous. I told her I went to bed at about 10 p.m. and that I slept through the night. I could tell she was trying to be polite, but my answer was definitely rubbing her the wrong way. But it was the truth, so what can I say? Anyway, the conversation ended with her telling me to be more cautious at night, and me telling her that I would. I was only trying to be considerate, seeing as how we had to live together, and I didn't want to start off on the wrong foot. Honestly though, I thought she was a bitch and a lying sack of shit. Another day goes by and Kate the bitch complains about the same thing. I tell her I didn't do anything late at night, but I could tell she clearly didn't believe me. That went on for 5 days until Kate complained to Sarah. I told Sarah that everyone would know if I were making that much noise late at night, that even those who slept upstairs would have heard the noise, and she agreed with me. The night ended with disagreements since it was my word against Kate's, so I had an idea. I was going to record myself sleeping using the laptop. I set it to record at a lower resolution as to not fill up the hard drive before the night is over, and went to bed with confidence that I would prove the bitch wrong. It was a Saturday the next morning, so all of us were at home and we all woke up late. Like clockwork, Kate came upstairs to complain, but this time I had the recording to shut her the hell up for good. Me, Sarah, and Kate sat on the bed and we began watching the recording. Obviously, I wasn't knocking on the freaking floor. I had it figured in my head that I would expose Kate's lie and that she would shut up about it once and for all. But something in the video made all of us jump off the bed. We all heard the sound of someone knocking on the wooden floor, but I was sound asleep on the bed. Kate wasn't lying, and I wasn't lying either. But it was something else that was making the noises, and we couldn't see it on the screen. I didn't want to or need to watch the video anymore. There was just no way that I was going to stay there another night. I grabbed some essentials and told Sarah I was going to come for the rest of the things when I found a new place to stay. I temporarily stayed in my old roommate's new apartment and was able to rent a studio after about a week. When I went back to Sarah's to get the rest of my stuff, everyone had moved out but the girl who rented the study. Sarah told me she was also moving out and that she planned to put the house on the market. We kind of drifted apart after that, and I haven't seen her since then, although I did hear the news that she had sold the house. The house was sold fairly quick, and that leads me to believe that she probably sold it below market value. I think it's fair to assume that she hadn't disclosed the paranormal nature of the house, and that really stinks for the new owners. I have a genuine fear now of moving to different places, and I wonder if I'll ever be able to buy a house with this paranoia I have for haunted houses. I don't know much about ghosts, haunting, or anything which involves the paranormal, but I want to say if anyone's shopping for a new house, even if it's weird and awkward to approach total strangers with bizarre questions, do make sure you ask the neighbors and the realtor about anything weird that might possibly be happening in and around the house. After all, you can break a lease with a slight penalty, but a deed for a house? That's a completely different problem altogether. This happened in August of 2014. I'm originally from San Diego, but I moved to San Francisco for employment after college. It had been 6 years since I moved to the Bay Area by August of 2014. I visited my parents quite often for the first couple of years after moving, but I began to visit them less and less with time. The year before, I couldn't attend Mom's birthday party because of a huge project I was in charge of. I felt bad the whole year, so this year I wanted to make it up to her by taking advantage of the sick days I hadn't used to visit her a week before her birthday. Not only was I looking forward to spending time with my parents, but I was excited to finally have the chance to hang out with Julian, my best friend since middle school. I left San Francisco at midnight. I hate traffic, so I decided to drive overnight. 4 hours into the trip, my stomach began growling. I saw a rest stop sign about 2 miles back, which I was very happy for and planned to stop by to grab something to eat. Sometime later, the rest area appears and I pull into the parking lot. It was one of those that have accommodations for truckers, and therefore the parking area was enormous. I parked the car right in front of the food court, take a piss, have a burger, take a piss one more time for safe measure, and get back in the car to leave. Just as I'm about to drive out, I hit the brake hard upon seeing a woman waving for help. I drive up to her, stop, and get out of the car. The woman looks to be in her early 20s. She's dressed nicely and looks harmless. She's also very pretty. But believe me, that's not why I stopped. I couldn't even see her face initially when I hit the brake. I had only stopped because a lady was waving for help. I walk toward her, but stop with a fair distance between us so I don't scare her. I say to her, "Hi there, can I help you with something?" The woman responds, "My car won't start. I tried calling my boyfriend, but he won't answer. My place is only 20 minutes away from here. Would you be kind enough to drive me there?" It's unusual that a woman would ask a total stranger to drive her home at this hour, but I suppose she really doesn't have much choice. I tell her, "Sure, I can give you a ride. Hop in." I get in the car and unlock the door for her. She sits shotgun, rolls down the window, and I drive off. I ask her for directions first, then 5 minutes later, we get off on an exit. We are driving on a 2-lane road and it looks entirely desolate. There are no businesses and it's just trees everywhere. It felt uncomfortable being together with a stranger in such a confined space. I wanted to lighten up the mood a little, and so I say, "I'm driving to San Diego to my parents to surprise my mom for her birthday. I bought a necklace for her. Do you think she'll like it?" I look at her for a second, expecting an answer, but she continues to look out the window and doesn't say anything. It's fortunate that it's nighttime because I know for certain my face has turned red. I keep driving for another minute when I hear the woman singing. I look at her a few times thinking how weird it is that she wouldn't speak to me and yet serenade so nonchalantly as if I'm not even here. It feels awkward and uncomfortable. All I want is to get to her place as quickly as possible, drop her weird ass home, and get the heck out of this place. I open my side of the window as well and lean my body slightly to the door. I don't want to look at her, and having the window open makes me feel like I'm in a different space from her. We are approaching an intersection, and so I want to ask her if we should make a turn. I look at her and say, hey, but before I could finish the sentence, she opens the door and jumps out the car. I hit the brake hard. The car comes to a screeching stop. I jump out the car and look everywhere, but I can't find the woman anywhere. I get back in the car, grab the flashlight from the trunk, then head into the woods by the side of the road. We were traveling at roughly 60 miles an hour. I don't know how far a person can be propelled out the car at that speed, but logically speaking, she couldn't be too far. How much of a distance does it take for a car to come to a complete stop from 60 miles an hour? How far behind can she be? She was nowhere to be seen in the woods near the car. I get back to the car and could see the skid marks stretching all the way down the road. I follow it to where it started and begin looking for her. She jumped out the car at 60 miles an hour. In the movies, the hero barely gets a scratch pulling off a stunt like that, but in real life, you'll be bloodied and break your bones in half a dozen places if you're lucky. There has to be something on the road, a piece of cloth or blood, but other than the skid marks, the road is clean. I call for her and run around in every direction to look for her, to no avail. I begin to question everything about the night. I even wonder if I really was in my car with a woman. I think about just leaving, but there's just enough doubt in my mind which forces me to call the cops. I had to be sure that I wasn't leaving an injured woman behind. The cops arrive and they check the entire area using the searchlight installed on the roof of their cruiser. After nearly 2 hours of search, they conclude that no one had jumped out of the car. I thought they would ask me to stay overnight, at least until they could do a proper search in daylight, but they told me to go. They looked kind of disinterested during the search, like they've done this before a million times. One of the cops told me that these things happen, that when you drive alone at night, tired and bored, you could imagine things that aren't there. Listen, I'm not a psychologist, but I know these things don't just happen because you're tired and bored. You don't just imagine a person, give that person a ride in your car, that person gives you driving directions, and that sad person jumps out the car isn't something that just happened. I tried telling this to the cops, but they just wouldn't listen. They just told me to go, so what could I do? I drove off and that was the end of it. Nothing as weird happened in my life since then, and quite frankly, it's been as boring as life can get. It's been several years now since the incident, or non-incident according to the police, but I still think about that night all the time. Every time I recall that night, I remember her face. I can still hear the sad voice and the way she sang the song. Whatever really happened on that road, I didn't imagine it. You can't remember a fake that vividly. She was real. I know she was. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this video, but please do stick around for a few more minutes. I've got to announce a couple of changes pertaining to this channel, and I will do so as quickly as I can. So recently, some of the big time YouTubers made videos regarding on what could either be a glitch or a major change in algorithm for YouTube. One was losing subscribers every time they published a video, and the other was all those channels affected getting their views slashed by up to 40%. I was affected by this as well, but I didn't talk about it because so much crap had happened to my channel over the past 3 months. And I didn't want to tell you guys about every single one of them. Now, mind you, some of you might think that it's because my content sucks or because I suck. But now we've got many big YouTubers talking about this, and those include H3H3 with over 2 million subscribers, Kimstar with 1.7, Comedy Shorts Gamer with 7 million plus, and the daddy of all PewDiePie with nearly 50 million subs. Most of all though, I've got numbers to back up my claim. Alright, so 2 things you need to know. When you look at your channel's analytics, and this is where you get all the information about views, likes, subs, and such, there are 2 major traffic sources that will be displayed. The first one is the browse feature, and those are views coming from the sub box. So if you click on my video in your subscription feed, then that's where it'll show up. The second one is the suggested video, and those are views coming from the sidebar of YouTube. So if you click on my video on the sidebar after you finish watching, say, Philip DeFranco, then the view will be counted as suggested video. By the way, the sidebar is where I personally find a lot of the contents from the content creators I'm subscribed to, and this is important because many subscribers don't bother with the sub box. With that explained, let me show you the view distribution from a video published in August. This video got 14,000 views, and as you can see, 56% of views came from the sub box and 31% came from the suggested videos. Now, let's check out a video published in September, and the percentage is similar at 45-37 split. This one was the last normal video published on November 1st, and the split is 47-39. Looking good so far, but finally, let me show you the splits for the videos published from November 2nd through November 19th in one single screen cap. As you can see, the suggested video has progressively gone down and is now at 9%. The story is the same for videos published after November 19th. I also know that more and more people are not getting my new uploads in their sub box. The trend will continue because the channels which are affected by these changes basically lose a sub every time a subscriber either misses or chooses to skip a video. Chances are the next time I upload a new video, the subscriber will either get unsubbed automatically, or at the very least they will not be notified of my upload. I know this because I receive messages and emails about it all the time from my subs. We are also seeing YouTube going back to the old days of putting heavy emphasis on the likes. This is what YouTube likes to call audience engagement, and that's the reason why you see so many YouTubers nowadays doing giveaways on every video. And what's the requirement to win those giveaways? Those are likes, subscription, and comments. Way to make your website shittier, YouTube. Yeah, let's make it possible to game the system. Jesus, at the end of the day, it's about money, and of course, I don't hate YouTube for wanting to make more money. After all, YouTube is a private company, and it has to make money to not only generate profits for its major shareholders, but to continue keeping the company afloat, as in paying their employees and continuing to upkeep their infrastructure. Now, because I don't make a living with YouTube, I used to not run ads on most of my videos when I first began this channel. It was only when I began to invest money on my contents that I began running ads on all of my videos. Yes, it does cost money to produce good contents. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, I began running ads at the end of the videos to test out my theory about money being the main reason for my videos not being featured. But it hasn't fared well because for the most part, people just close their tab when they're done with the videos. So basically, the end of the video ads don't really generate much profit for YouTube. So finally, we come to a point in which I'll have to run ads in the middle of the videos to test out my theory. I will not be doing this on videos with 15 minutes or less of runtime. But say, for example, on a 20-minute long video with 2 stories, I'll be adding a middle of the video ad after the first story is finished. I'll also have to do this for those very long single stories that span anywhere between 25 to 40 minutes. This is because it's not profitable for YouTube to use the bandwidth to stream a 40-minute long video with a single ad when they could run 3 ads on a 15-minute long video on the contents which the content creator wishes to do so. It just makes sense for them to feature and push contents and content creators that make them more money. I mean, wouldn't you do the same? I've always been open with you guys, and you guys know that I'm always listening and responding to your questions and suggestions. I didn't have to tell you what I'm about to do, but I wanted to because that's the relationship I have with you. It used to be that YouTube could make a profit even when many of their content creators chose not to run ads. And of course I was one of them. But now with AdBlock continuing to gain popularity, YouTube has tried YouTube Red, which probably helps to a degree, but it wasn't enough and they probably had to resort to favoring channels that make them more money by running more ads. I'm seeing the same trend on many of my favorite channels. They deliberately make the videos just slightly longer than 10 minutes and run 3 ads on them. The pre-roll, the mid-roll, and the end of the video ads. By the way, apologize for the background noise. It's raining hard outside and it's kind of noisy. Anyways, I'll test out the mid-roll ads for about 2 months and see what kind of effect it has on the view distribution. If it works, then obviously I'll have to keep the format. But if it doesn't, then we'll go back to the old days of running the pre-roll ads only. Lastly, I just want to tell you guys that for me personally, this isn't about money. I make crap running this channel. This whole year, I've spent more money in content creation for this channel than I've made. This isn't a profitable venture for me. I do it because I love making videos and I enjoy entertaining you guys. But I think YouTube needs to make more money to stay in the black, and it's just my hypothesis, but it makes sense. Based on the sheer percentage of users who use AdBlock, they had to take a drastic action, and for me personally, it's a sad day. The fact that I have to push more ads in your face to stay relevant does not make me happy at all. All I've said so far are my own personal hypotheses. Let's just make that clear because I don't want a lawsuit coming my way. Thank you guys for listening. I apologize deeply in advance for the coming ads. I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.